Today, I'm very proud of our German Chancellor because yesterday, Angela Merkel, Mutti, Mommy Merkel, gave the first address to the nation. In 16 years, 17 years, the first address to the nation, which was not the New Year's Eve address. And today I read an article by a New York magazine, the interviewer, and they hail her speech. Everywhere in the world, they hail her speech. And there's one line in that speech which brings us right to today's topic, rhetorical devices. It's a massive rhetorical device. I read it to you. In the article, this is the English translation of the speech of yesterday. She said, since German unification, no, since the Second World War, no challenge to our nation has ever demanded such a degree of common and united action. You know the name of that rhetorical device, in case you spotted it. The rhetorical device that her speechwriter, in cooperation with her, I guess that speech she co-wrote with her writer, it's called metonymy. They all have weird Greek names. Metonymy. A metonymy calls a thing or concept not by its... Oh no, I'm wrong. Super cool. This is so live. Oh, this is so raw. Guys, hang in. Just get your questions ready on rhetorical devices. No, she used metanoia. Metanoia also starts with an M, man. Qualifies a statement by recalling it or part of it and expressing it in a better, milder, or stronger way. She certainly said it in a stronger way. Examples would be, at Toastmasters, we become better speakers. In fact, we become better people. Or, he's a great friend. Nah, the best friend in the world. Why is it so amazing, before we enter the session on rhetorical devices, why is it so amazing what she said? Everyone in Germany, I'm now 46, everyone in Germany above 40 can really relate to the hard times after the unification, after the wall came down in 1989. So that German can relate to. But she gives another example, which we cannot relate so much to the Second World War. This is harder even than that. It is like the Seventh World War. And that makes it relevant to everyone and shows how important it is, how serious the whole virus thing is in Germany right now. Metanoia is the first rhetorical device I want to talk about today, but of course this is interactive. Welcome to another session number 7 already. 7, and today is all about rhetorical devices. If is always wrong. No conditional. When you have questions about rhetorical devices, ask, shoot, whatever it is. First, what is a rhetorical device? Rhetorical device or rhetorical figure are special figures in a speech in your content. I always use a metaphor, which is a rhetorical device. You know, the gray mass of content. In the gray mass of content, boring, meta speech, disclaimers, meta speech, facts, data, figures. My God, how do I get out of here? Man, I want to sleep. In that gray mass of boring content, rhetorical devices are colorful spots. They're color spots. They're super cool. And you can use much more rhetorical devices. Do you have any question already on rhetorical devices? Alba, you are here. You are a hardcore Toastmaster. You must have a question on rhetorical devices. That's for sure. How many different figures? Alba, very good first question. How many different figures, rhetorical devices, do you advise? Oh, that's an assonance. No, what is it? Advice. To use in a 7-minute speech. For those here who are not Toastmasters, this is our biggest global public speaking organization that we are part of, many here in this group, and I'm a fanatic Toastmaster for 15 years almost. 5 to 7 minutes is our speech slot. So 7 minutes is a great speech slot for wedding speeches, birthday, anniversary speeches, eulogies. 7 minutes max, always great. Nobody falls asleep if you're good. Now, how many different figures? I cannot tell you that. Alba. In the invitation in the YouTube, where it explains today's meeting, I said, I was inspired, I rephrased a little bit what Jock Elliott was once in, correct me if I'm wrong, 2014 or 13, he was the world champion of public speaking. And he's an Australian guy, and he's not Jim Carrey on stage, and he's not Benjamin Zander, the TED Talk. Have you seen Benjamin Zander? Woo! The Boston Philharmonic's composer, conductor. No, he is super. He's more like Sir Ken Robinson in his famous TED Talk. Completely lay back. And at a coffee break at a conference in Krakow, in Poland, he told me, Florian, knowing rhetorical devices is good. Detecting them is better. Applying them is gold. Today, after 15 years, Alba, of speaking and of doing this, later I will show you what your gift is. Today, you will receive a gift here. After dealing with all those rhetorical devices and going into them and analyzing them and writing speeches, I hardly use any sentence without rhetorical device. Hardly. Anaphora, I will always repeat. For this reason, we can do this. For this reason, why don't we act? For this reason, when do we start to act? I mean, anaphora, that's one of those. I use them all the time. I think there is no limit to rhetorical devices because any rhetorical device beats the shit out of all the other boring content anyway. We have accomplished a lot last year. We fought like Hercules last year, and the results pay back. You see, it's different metaphor. But another question from Alba, but it is better to not repeat the rhetorical device. Come on, have you seen I Have a Dream? Have you watched the entire 17 minutes on YouTube? Guys, watch MLK Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech. I make the question every time in my trainings, anyone has seen the entire speech? Not only I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. No, I mean the entire speech. 17 minutes you can invest. Right now you're staying at home a lot. Check that speech, Alba. Then you can say, yeah, but he's a preacher. He's always talking in metaphors and anaphora and in alliteration. No, it is a good speech because he uses all these rhetorical devices. It's not the other way around. What do you mean by repeat rhetorical devices? You can repeat alliteration all the time. You can turbo up your rhetorical. Nah, that didn't work. Alliteration, man, like Vini Vidi Vici, Caesar, you can use all the time. When I write out speeches, I look up, thesaurus, thesaurus, to find synonyms. Sometimes one of the rhetorical devices, pleonasm. You know what a pleonasm is? Pleonasm is, I can give you the example from the gift you will receive today. Pleonasm would be when you repeat the same word with synonyms with the same meaning. It can be a bit dreadful, but it is also on purpose sometimes to have more impact. Like, the point he made was blank, empty, and hollow. This is a pleonasm. And in one of my competition speeches once back in the day in 2010 at Toastmasters, I made it to the district level, to The Hague in the Netherlands. And there I had one word. I said it was a dire feeling. When the guy told me at school, I'm 14 years old, you're old-fashioned, that was a dire feeling. But then I went into thesaurus and I looked up alliterations. And then in the end, I said in the speech, it was a dire, dreadful, disastrous feeling. Yeah, of course, you repeat rhetorical device. Metaphors, you can repeat. Oh, metaphor as a theme for entire speech. When you use it as a theme, my life is a journey is cliche. No journey. My life is a roller coaster ride is cliche. My life is an adventure. Stick to one theme, one metaphor when you have a theme. Don't mix themes. Kill Bill, vengeance. The Ring, or Frodo, the ring. And Star Wars, the Force. There's not the Force and kindergarten. It's the Force. But metaphors in general, you can use, of course, more often. Do you have any more questions? This is a tough topic today. I know, I'm very well aware of the fact that rhetorical devices, figures are deep stuff. Now, the gift in the meantime, while you're thinking about your questions that might occur today, even still, back in the day, I created this PDF. This is on my website, florianmuig.com, florianmuig.com. You can, that's always there. You can download the PDF. That's my 25 specialists here. But then I remember back in the day, even further back in the day, I created a blog post. But the blog post is there and nobody looks at it. It's hidden somewhere in the mist of zeros and ones. And that is a metaphor. There are 50 giants. So here comes the sun, 50 giants of rhetoric, from alliteration to understatement. Just a second, Albert. And today I put them all into a PDF document. And at the end of this call, I post the PDF link and you can download this one. 50, that will give you a lot. There is more rhetorical devices. I guess the ones that I use more or less up to 60, 70, but that's really the nitty gritty. 50, you're really, really safe. Alba, is there any, thank you, Alba, you're so participative. To Alba, Colombia, we can trust on you. Alba, is there any particular rhetorical figure that makes higher impact in a speech? The good thing about these sessions is they make me think, they make you think, but they make me think a lot. Now, this is a great question. We can put a ranking of those 50 rhetorical devices that you will receive in terms of impact on emotions, on logical impact. Never done this analysis. I cannot tell you right away an answer, but okay, from my gut feeling, is there any particular rhetorical figure that makes higher impact in a speech? I think because people can relate to it so much and because it makes everything more emotional, more tangible. Hi, Maura. Well, triad is not really a rhetorical device. It's three things. Yeah, alliteration, of course. No, what I wanted to say to Alba, metaphor. I would go for the metaphor. I mean, when MLK Jr. says my favorite sentence in his speech in front of Lincoln Memorial, we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. What can you say? A metaphor compares two things by saying one thing is the other. It's different from the simile. Simile is more or bigger than. I'm like a lion. Metaphors, I am a lion. Both have their place. Both are very, very powerful because they make it tangible, visual, it's imagery, and of course, images we remember. And most of all metaphors, of course, talk because they're so visual, tangible, relatable to our emotions. And emotion plus visual, emotional plus visual is long-term memory. I would go for the metaphor. Favorites. Maura, can you give an example of a triad, a famous one? Of course, Veni Vidi Vici, I already said, but in general, do a triad. And give an example of an alliteration for everyone who's not so, there are people who are not so much into rhetorical figures. And of course, these sessions are supposed to talk to everyone. Can you give an example of an alliteration, Maura? That will be great. Alba, I really think about your question because analyzing rhetorical devices according to their impact on the audience. Well, every audience is different. Repetition works. Do you guys know why rhetorical devices are so powerful. Have you ever thought about that? Why? I always think about now in communication, since I'm so deep into it, everything I question. I want to know everything behind everything. I don't trust anyone saying something without a reason. I want to analyze why. Do you know why we use rhetorical devices? Park the question. Think about it. Why are they so powerful? Juan has a question. Florian, did you see Rivera from Ciudadanos in the Spanish TV presidential debate saying, "Do you hear the silence?" If so, what do you think about that? Of course, I love this sentence. Rhetorical device. Do you hear the silence? There are two here. There are three here. Three rhetorical devices, Juan Carlos Duran, in one sentence by Rivera from Spain. First one. Paul from Ireland. Cork is it too, right? Is it also Cork? His soul swoons slowly. That's an alliteration with a triad. Perfect. Thank you very much. Juan, let's go back to your sentence. Do you hear the silence? First, you have a rhetorical question. What is a rhetorical question? The answer is obvious. Why do we ask rhetorical questions? Because the audience confirms what we say. Every question makes you think. Have you been happy in life? Have you been unhappy? Have you been unfaithful? Every question makes you think. Rhetorical question makes you confirm. They are really powerful. So that's the first one. Second one, hearing and silence. It's like an antithesis, like a small step for man, a giant leap for mankind. Neil Armstrong. But then, of course, it is whirled into a complete paradox. It's a paradox. It is an anomalia. It doesn't work. I cannot hear the silence. It's a paradox. It's like less is more. That is Ludwig Mies van der Rohe. He always said that, the Bauhaus super architect, less is more. So it's a fantastic phrase, Juan Carlos. No doubt about it. I will copy paste that and say he said it. Well, right now he's not so cool anymore. And an oxymoron? Well, an oxymoron is a two-word paradox. It's only an oxymoron when it's two words. Black, milk, happily divorced, kindly arrogant. Yeah, of course, Maura, Paul. We met. We had our first beer when I arrived in Sheffield. Those were the days. In Sheffield, we had big pints of beer. Here we have Spanish wine, amazing wine. When we cannot go out, we have to enjoy our home. Wow, these are fantastic questions. Maura, Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet, from far alone of these two foes, a pair of star-crossed lovers take their life. Isn't Shakespeare amazing? What is the weirdest rhetorical device you know? Exactly, Paul, cork. The wine doesn't cork. What's the weirdest rhetorical device you know? You will receive today 50. I can tell you there's weird stuff going on here. Have you heard about this one? I know, and I do them and I use them more or less 25 to 30, but these are 50. And there's stuff like, wait a minute, when I saw this morning, when I prepared this is amazing. Oh yeah. Do you know what a catachresis is? And do you even know how this is written? Catachresis. Catachresis is spelled Catachresis. It's an extravagant implied metaphor. It's an extravagant implied metaphor using words in an alien or unusual way. Oh, funny that, Paul, you said just I was born an alien. Yeah, so examples for catachresis are, I will speak daggers to her, from Hamlet. Another Hamlet, to take arms against the sea of troubles. This is an anomaly, this is a metaphor on purpose, very weird, extravagant. And this is mine. She spoke AK-47 style without pausing at all. This is from my trainings. When somebody speaks without a comma or point or nothing. Thank you very much. Do you know these guys? I call them AK-47. Juan Carlos Doran, I love chiasmus for its magical properties. Explain to us what are the magical properties of a chiasmus. There are two. There are two magical properties of a chiasmus. Who of you can tell me what are the magical properties of a chiasmus? And what's a chiasmus? It's a reverse repetition. The most famous one is by JFK that I know. My parents had never met an infant before. Paul, we have already jumped the rhetorical devices. We moved on. Reverse repetition, of course, the most famous one, which is not a real chiasmus. JFK, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Reverse repetition. First magical property, repetition. Many rhetorical devices work with repetition because repetition sticks, repetition sticks, repetition sticks. Yes, we can, yes, we can, yes, we can. Ask not what your country can do for you, exactly. But for the nerds in this group, and we have 8 right now here in this chat, in this live chat, he used the same words. And if he used the same words, then it's a special form of the chiasmus. It's antimetabole. But antimetabole, you really do not have to remember. Does that sound humbly bold? Which would be an oxymoron. You see, they're so cool. Rhetorical devices, I sleep with them. I have dinner with rhetorical devices. Okay, give me more you know. Come on, give me names of rhetorical devices you know. The second magical property, Juan, of a chiasmus. You give only 2 options. It's a closed thing. You can only do. So when you argue with people, your argument is very strong because you only have 2 options. One is shit, the other one is great. But there's no room for more options. What is, I've never heard that, Alba. That's amazing. What is axismus? ACCISMUS. What is that? Can you explain it to us? Paul, thank goodness I've been in Toastmasters for about 5 years and nobody has mentioned an etaboli. What is an etaboli? Now, cool. But you have to explain it to us in the chat so I can say it to everyone, etaboli. Well, that's cool. Axismus. While you're thinking what this is, do you guys know? Well, if you are my Toastmasters Club, you know. Prestigious Speakers Barcelona, you will know. But my favorite rhetorical devices of all rhetorical devices, Alba, which is my favorite rhetorical device? In case you know, you've known me for a long time. Okay, first, axismus, Mora, very smart, is a feigned refusal of something earnestly desired. Can you give an example? I really don't want that because I love it too much. Would that be an axismus? Now, what is my favorite rhetorical device? It starts with the letter P. There are 3 words for it in history. I use the P word. It's called paralipsis. Paralipsis. Whatever you take of this session today, in the future, use paralipsis. It's my absolute favorite one. I park you, Paul. I finish my paralipsis first. Paralipsis means originally to omit, to leave out, to not say it. Antigone said, if you were not my father, I would say you were perverse. If you were not my father, I would say you were perverse. He doesn't say it. Or it's not really the right quotation of Cicero, the great Roman orator, but more or less he said something like, I will not mention the pain, Claudio, you caused in me. I will not mention the pain, Claudio, you caused in me. Paralipsis is my absolute favorite. You can say stuff that is politically not correct. That's amazing. You can be so cool. And of course, when you have a lot of a lot of content. Sometimes in these PowerPoint jihad slides, that's how I call them, these typical bullet pointed slides. Yeah. And then they tell me you can remember 3 things. 27 bullet points I had once on the topic of innovation by a banker in Madrid. 27 bullet points. Can you imagine? 27 bullet points. I didn't even know Arial 6 existed. It's a waste of time. Then you can use parallipsis. Parallipsis is super cool. I could tell you today all the 27 initiatives we've taken over the last year. I could mention initiative number 11, where we accomplished to launch product stuff in market X. That would be cool, but today I don't want to. I could also mention point number 5. I will not. Today I want to focus on the last 3, and for me, the biggest accomplishments out of these 27. You see, that is parallipsis. You don't kill your audience with content, but you say it. Your logic goes up. Repetitions are great. Anaphoras, epistrophes. Epistrophes, when you repeat at the end, it's the opposite of an anaphora. At the end, like yesterday in the call number 6, I mentioned JFK. Let them come to Berlin in his famous Ich bin ein Berliner speech. Let them come to Berlin. Paul, I'm going to practice the next 3 days. Parallipsis, yeah. Gonfalro, son, I've never met you here so far. Great to meet you. Have you been here? I love Steve Jobs, and he is a good example. Now, he used aporias. Oh, now, nice. When he introduced the new technology, e.g., we don't want to cry around a mouse, right? So can you give the definition of aporias? Of course, I will check it out after the call right away. This sounds very intriguing. If somebody tells you in your future, I've been doing this stuff for 15 years. If somebody tells you he knows all rhetorical devices, this is the same as if somebody telling you, I know everything about wine. By definition, these people are liars. And what I just did comparing wine with rhetorical devices is, of course, 2 concepts. Comparing 2 concepts is an analogy. I could tell you the name of my second best friend. Oh yeah, Paul, say it. Nice. We don't want to cry around a mouse. I still love that. Have I forgotten anyone? If anytime I forget somebody in this call, just say it again. Just put it again, because I cannot do both. I'm a man. Cannot focus. And I have to focus on wine as well. It's crazy. So what I'm going to do, hope is the prolongation of failure. Oh yeah, Alba, we need another session on rhetorical devices. Of course, we can never stop talking about rhetorical devices. Hope is the prolongation of failure. I hope there will be one more question before we finish this call today. But it's been great to hear all your rhetorical devices. And I've seen that in the live, when it goes online, the talk, also the chat stays. So we can always check out all these great rhetorical devices you just mentioned in the chat. You will receive this. And I will give you a quick one on what you receive in that PDF, which I post now. Alliteration, allusion, amplification, anadiplosis, analogy, anaphora, antanogigi. Greeks, man, they're crazy. Antimetaboly, antiphrasis, antithesis, aposiopesis, apostrophe, assonance, asyndeton, catachresis, chiasmus, climax, conduplicatio. What is that? Conduplicatio, diacop, distinctio, enthymeme, enumeratio, epanalepsis, epistrophe, epithet, epizeuxis, eponym, exemplum, hyperbole, hypophora, metabasis, metanoia, metaphor, metonymy, anametapia, oxymoron, paradox, parallipsis, parallelism, parenthesis, personification, pleonasm, polysyndeton, procatalepsis, rhetorical question, sententia. I did a spelling mistake here. It's called sententia. My God. Sentential adverb, simile, synecdoche, understatement. My friends, with that, you will have a lot of homework for your upcoming speeches in the future. Rhetorical devices for your content are color spots in the gray mass of super boring content. And now, Paul, if I mention what is to hope or not to hope, that is the dilemma. Yeah, that now just killed my climax of finishing this call. But Paul, we don't leave anyone behind, not even from Cork in Ireland. See you tomorrow. Tomorrow's session, I post you now the link. Wait. Just a second. Thank you, Gonzalo. So that's the link. Tomorrow's session, I decided we will be talking about content killers. One of my favorite subjects. Like all of these subjects are my favorite subject, but content killers. I never put them in one session. This is new to me. This is to talk about all these content killers. And I don't even give you an example, which was just a content killer, because I give you some expectation, I don't fulfill it. Now you're bored by my words. Tomorrow, everything about content killers. See you at 6 p.m. CET. Great talking to you, chatting with you, being with you. Greetings from lockdown Spain, and we see each other tomorrow.